Hey man, welcome again. My name is Stefan Ganville and I have a website called Freedom Academy HQ where I help people overcome their shyness and their social anxiety. So today I'd like to share with you a little principle. It's basically that if you want to overcome your social anxiety, you should get comfortable with feeling uncomfortable. This is probably the number one thing that you can do for yourself, okay? So what does this mean, get comfortable with being uncomfortable? Well, if you watch a lot of my other videos, you know that your social anxiety came about because you avoid a lot of social situations, you know? And getting comfortable with being uncomfortable is the number one thing that you can do. It's going to help you tremendously. It's going to help you become comfortable with social situations. It's going to make you much more comfortable around other people, and it's all around the best thing that you can do for your social anxiety. I mean, it's the number one skill that you can develop. It's to become comfortable with being uncomfortable. You know, a lot of people with social anxiety, they feel that way because they avoid every social situation at every step that they can, and then as a result of that, you know, they lose their friends, they don't have a girlfriend, they feel shitty about themselves, they can't even step out of the house, some of them become housebound, they can become dependent on some drugs, they feel hopeless, a lot of them become, you know, maybe you feel depressed. And all of this is because you haven't trained the number one skill, you haven't trained the number one skill that you could train for yourself that would make your life situation just incredibly better. And that is the skill of being comfortable with feeling uncomfortable. So how do you do that? Well, you know, it's as simple, the simple answer is that you start going into situations that you feel uncomfortable in, and with time, those situations that you feel uncomfortable in now will become more comfortable. So this is like a long-term process where you have to face your feared situation over and over and over again, and that's the best way that you can overcome your social anxiety. You know, so there's different way that you can do that, because you know, you're not gonna see your biggest fear ever and then start attacking that just like tomorrow. That's not how it works, you know. You can start really slow and baby step your way to bigger and bigger scary situations. But if overcoming your social anxiety is something that is dear to your heart, and it's something that you're committed to and that you want to really get into, and maybe, you know, you have a bigger vision for yourself, maybe you want to make friends, build a social circle, have a girlfriend, overcome your depression, doing this is by far the best way to do this. It's, you know, like, exposure is the number one fastest way and most efficient way that you can overcome your social anxiety. So, you know, if you want to start feeling comfortable with feeling uncomfortable, you can start doing little things like the first step that I would advise you to do is that basically you need to, in your day-to-day life, you need to start looking around and thinking about the situations that scare you. So let's say you're walking in the street, you have to start noticing what you're doing that in order to avoid your anxiety, or in order to diminish it, you know. So maybe you're walking in the street and you see a crowd of people, maybe you cross the street to go on a less busy sidewalk, maybe you have groceries to make and you go to the grocery store but it's too busy, so you decide not to go. Maybe you know, there's tons of situations. Maybe someone you know invited you to a party, and you know, you're like, oh no, obviously I'm not gonna go to that, and you see being too afraid as a valid enough justification not to do those things. But I would argue that I am too afraid is not a valid justification not to do these types of things. And when I say not to do them, I mean baby step your way. So if you're at the grocery store and you don't want to go in because there's a lot of people, you don't need to just what I'm saying, like get comfortable with being uncomfortable, doesn't mean that you just burst in there and just do the scariest thing that you can do, that's possible, you know. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that maybe instead of turning back home and feeling like a piece of shit, and you know, like just feeling hopeless even more, and just like, oh yeah, that's me, I can't do this, you can start pushing your comfort zones and start becoming comfortable with feeling uncomfortable. So instead of going home, you can maybe park a little further and take like 10 steps towards the grocery store, and then get in your car and then leave. You know, and you can baby step your way by doing that. Stuff like that. So you need to become really aware of the situations that you'd normally avoid and start baby stepping your way, just pushing those comfort zones a little by little, okay? So how do you know that this is working? It's when you feel uncomfortable, obviously, you know? So every time that usually, you know, the situation would make you feel uncomfortable on its own, but what you want to do is you want to kind of like lean into that uncomfortable feeling. You want to, like, you know, whereas usually a fearful situation would take you over and you turn back and run the other way, that same situation is going to be there, but instead of running, you want to remember this video and be like, hey, what did that freaking guy say on that video? That if I wanted to overcome my social anxiety, I needed to start leaning on in the feared situation. So instead of running away like you usually do, you could maybe like, hey, you know, and maybe you just stand there a little bit and you just push a little bit. Okay, yeah, that's good. Then you can go. So with time, and the more you do this, the easier it's going to become. And you know, you want to basically build yourself where you can face situations that are very intense. And how you do that? You put yourself in intense situations. So the best way that I would advise you to do that is to do what I'm saying. You can baby step it, or if you're bold enough and you just had enough of this problem, which is the point where I just started doing stuff that was way out of my comfort zones. You know, so I would go to nightclubs, and I would, you know, in the midst of my social anxiety, well, no, that was before. The first thing that I did is I quit drinking, and then I got a job that I got a job. That was a big step for me, and then I worked my way up from there to a point where now I have a very social job. But you know, you can start building your life like that, and you know, you can do that also. You have to build your, it's not that you have to block every scary situation out of your life. You need to build yourself so that those situations don't affect you anymore. So that's it, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.